the role of women in Ghana's democratic dispensation. What would you say really is the role? How do you capture it?
Thank you very much. As women, you know, we are the majority in this country.
Right.
And I think it is time that we agreed, we come into conclusion with men. We are partners. We are not just trying to debate with you or to take your positions, but for you to feel that we are partners in order to help this country to succeed. If you look at it very carefully, in Article 17, Clause 1 and 2, it speaks about equality of women.
Absolutely.
And if you go to Article 17.4, it also says that Parliament may enact a law for reversing discrimination through the implementations of policies and programs. So it means that as women, we also have a say in the Constitution. And when you go to Article 35, Chapter 6, it also says that it ensures that the state takes measures to achieve regional and gender balance in recruitment to public service. This shows that it's not only to the political arena, but also into the public sector. So I think today's program will be very, very interesting.
But some say that we are already seeing this, of course, particularly Article 35 that you read. It's in the Directive Principles of State Policies under Chapter 6 of our Constitution. Yeah. And to say that progressively we have seen these happening, that the previous government had got the first female Chief Justice, the current government has the first female Speaker of Parliament. And so some say that progressively we see women step in there. But of course, I've also heard the view that that is some form of tokenism. Just one or two here and there doesn't really answer the question. What's your own view on that? To me, it doesn't really answer the question, because having a Chief Justice, a woman as a Chief Justice does not solve the problem. Neither having the first, let's say, a Speaker of Parliament being a lady or a woman does not solve the problem. You need to extend it to the grassroots, because if you watch very carefully, women are the majority. Sure. But to say, let's say, to be boldly emphasize that, if you watch carefully, it seems like gender equality is not working well in this country. What do I mean by gender equality? Right. I mean that equal rights, responsibilities, and opportunities to be made open to men, women, boys, and girls. We should not try to limit it to only men. So if we want... Are we doing that as a society? Yes. Isn't there equal opportunities for women? No, I don't. There's equal opportunity on this panel tonight. In fact, my panelists are three. All three are women. Because we are discussing about women. Because we are discussing about women. In some societies, it's men who discuss women. Even the women can discuss their own issues. Oh, I think we are partners. And I will also say that now Ghana is making progress towards empowerment of women. Okay. Because if you watch very carefully, we need to empower women if you want this society to be progressive. So it's good, and it's in the right direction. But what are we really not bravo doing? To your to your station. Thank you. Multi-TV. We like that. But really, what are we doing wrong? Can you tell me? You're saying that the society, for example, should provide more opportunity, equality, and etc. for everybody. What are we doing wrong? Your party, for example, has given you a great opportunity to speak for it. It's put you in a position and all of that. Who is preventing women from really being at the forefront? Okay, thank you. To start with, as a government, I think we have also done the best that we can, because at least we have ministers with deputy ministers. We have about 13. Right. It was very recently that my dear auntie was out of the ministerial position. That's Auntie Betty Mould. Okay. So let's say it's about 12. 12 now, okay. But if you watch very carefully, you will not expect that the way Ghana is progressing, we should just have few women to take these positions. Let's go to the district assembly. You know, when our president appointed a woman as Shama district, they voted against her, but the president insisted that he's not going to change that lady. And truly, and behold, they voted for her later. Then let's go to Akim Otan. The same thing also happened, and they voted for her. So it seems that gradually we need to change the perception of men. By doing this, we also need to train the young ones in the tertiary institutions, because it's not easy for a lady to be in politics. It takes a lot to be in politics, calling of names, saying things that you don't wish to be said to you, but you need to be bold and also to have confidence in yourself before you can get into politics. But I always say that seek ye first the political kingdom, and other things shall be...
added onto thee. I believe until the women come into the political limelight, we are not going to achieve our goals.
How do we groom more women to get into politics? How does it happen? What should we do?
One, we have to change the perception of the men. Why can't we go to the tertiary institutions, train our women to be bold, and also to come out to tell the men that yes, we can also make it. Yes, we need a helping hand. After all, we are not blaming you because you were created before us.
Okay.
This shows that we have a weaker cell, that we need your assistance to help us.
Okay.
But until men help us, unless the women also accept that yes, they are weaker, for the men to assist them. If we start from the tertiary, as NDC, we have started from that arena, training the tertiary institutions, our young women. And I'm also glad to tell you this evening that the NGOs, Sabantus, IEA, Frederick Ebert Foundation, they have started also training our women, especially Frederick Ebert Foundation. Every year, they train 5 or 6 women from each political party for duration of 10 months, just to give them the capacity building, just to give them the confidence to come out to debate with them, and not to argue, but to debate on policies and programs of this government. So I think it's very good. If we continue, it will really help this country.
But whose role is it really? Is it for the political party? Is it for the society? Is it for the home? Is it for the school? Is it for civil society generally, as we say? Whose role is it really to put a woman
from the
there?
Traditional area, we need to talk to them because it's not easy to change their perception about women.
Okay.
Then when you come to the tertiary, you also need to talk to our women to come out boldly, to let the men know that they are not in to compete with them. They are not in to argue with them, but they need them as partners.
All right.
Then from that level to the public sector, then to the ministerial position, let's say political arena. Because in my political party, before, it was only chairmen and secretaries who go in for elections if they want to elect parliamentary candidates. But the good offices of our chairman and the general secretary, they have changed it. Now, you know, we're having about 23,000 polling stations. And I can tell you, each polling station, a woman had a right to vote.
Okay.
So do the other party, that's opposition MPP.
Okay.
When we're going to Sunyani, out of the 10 delegates, women were 3. So this shows that there is improvement. So this time we are lobbying with our executives that why can't we amend our party constitution? Because we all have our strongholds, but it's not easy just to take a woman there to say that just stand on the party. No, some men will go to court or either be on their own as independent candidates. And at the end of the day, it will not help the political party. So as time goes on, we are lobbying with them, and I know that we are going to amend our constitution. After amending it, we need to go to Congress to affirm that, yes, this is what the party have agreed to. If you do this, then it means that our strongholds, definitely there will be some improvement. Then as for national women organizers of 4 political parties representing in parliament, that's NDC, CPP, PNC, and then MPP, we have agreed that, one, why can't we go to UC to lobby and also to talk to His Excellency if the new constituency will be allotted to women, only women, no matter where you are coming from, only women, to see if we can get more women. Because, my dear brother, if you watch very carefully, in 1996, NDC was having about 14 MPs, MPP 5. And this time, MPP having 14 and NDC 5. So it means that we are not progressing. So we need to sit down, lobby, tell the public what we want them to help us to achieve. Then after that, I think we will achieve our aim.
Let me ask you this question this way. You give me examples of name calling, some of the problems that women face when they try to get into the arena themselves and all of that, and the challenges.
Yeah.
But what about the view? that there is nothing of any kind preventing any woman from holding any position in this country. And that perception really needs to be washed away. Because really the young 12, 10, 9, 8-year-old little girl who hears this perhaps grows up believing that it is the nature of the society. There's a hurdle almost too tall to jump over in front of you simply because you are a woman. Yeah. When to some people, as a matter of fact, there is no such hurdle. That nothing prevents anybody from today saying that in this constituency, I'm going neck to neck with a man, shoulder to shoulder with a man. Why do we need exclusivity? This constituency is for women. This place is for women, for us to increase their numbers. Why can't women just step up to the plate?
My brother, it's not easy.
It's not?
We are the majority, but there are a lot of challenges. Because it's not easy for a woman to come in as a parliamentary candidate.
Why not? What is it that makes it difficult?
Financial, it's not easy. How many women own their own businesses? It's not easy. The moment you go to a man to ask for a financial help, they will just brand you as a prostitute. So I always say it on either I had the opportunity on TV or radio. What I say is that, can we also lobby for 1% of the consolidated fund to assist women not only in politics but in science, in engineering and other sectors, so that women will also have this percentage in order to upgrade. Because if we don't help, to be frank, it will never ever help this country. Because let's take countries like Rwanda, Angola, Cape Verde, South Africa, Uganda. They went through war, but we have never been through war. So it seems like the men are not seeing our usefulness. We don't have to wait till we go for war for the men to see how powerful women are. But other countries, the women boldly come out to say that unless you give us this, we are not going to contribute. And they give them the quota. But in Ghana, no. It is now that the women and children, that's more work, have started lobbying. And now we are having affirmative action, and we are hoping that it will be passed to bill so that women will also have the opportunity to get what they want out of the revenue that the country gets. So it's not easy.
So you're saying conscious effort. Conscious effort, this is what we want. This must happen. Let's deal with your party. Professor Mills, I remember in the run-up to the election, really spoke about the position of women and what he really has to do and all of that to increase the your text messages are coming in thick and fast. All right, but let's go to the phone lines right now. Dr. Rose Mensah Kutin, Director, West African Regional Office, Abantu for Development, is on the telephone line. Good evening to you, madam.
Good evening.
Thank you very much for joining us. We're discussing the role of women in Ghana's democratic dispensation tonight. And really, anytime we discuss these matters, the tendency has been for my panelists to tell me that there are so many problems staring women in the face and making it difficult for women to take front line roles.
Yeah, please, if you could speak up a bit.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. We're basically discussing the role of women in Ghana's democratic dispensation.
Yes.
And we keep hearing that there are so many problems, so many things in the way of women, which is the reason they don't really participate in the front row, so to speak.
Yeah.
Do you see that since 1992 to date, the problems are the same?
Well, I think the problems are the same, but they manifest themselves in different ways because, as you know, the society changes and the political context also changes. And as a result, the experiences may take on different characteristics. But generally, you can say that the situation has not changed much.
So really, tell me, and it's a question I've already asked in the studio, what is it that prevents any woman from rising to be anything she wants to be?
Well, actually, it will be of interest to you to realize that tomorrow we are launching a report, which is an international report called Social Watch. And Ghana contributes to this report. And what the report is saying is that in all the 140 countries where the study has been undertaken, the difference between women and men in terms of their participation in the education sector, in terms of their access to employment, and also their levels of income have not changed fundamentally. And therefore, when we are considering this issue, it is not just about participating in public life, but it is about the whole area of how women and men play their roles in society. And if we have a report like this saying that even in 104 countries, including Ghana, the gap still exists and that the gap has not narrowed in any significant way, then you realize that there are some very deep-seated structures and attitudes and behaviors that actually affect the ways in which women participate in society in relation to their male counterparts.
These are the problems I'm trying to unearth. So what are these problems?
Okay. Yeah. So some of these problems, basically, I think we all know that even as women and men are all human beings, nobody knows how it happened, but society has been structured in a way that prioritizes how men, or not men as individuals, but the conception of maleness or the masculine ways of doing things are seen as more important, more powerful, more relevant to society. And therefore, to the extent that it is often the male side of society that actually participates in these masculine areas of society, then you find these gaps existing between men and women. But I'm insisting that it is not about individual men, but it's about how society has been structured. So you'll find out that when it comes to a woman or a girl, the society socializes a woman or a girl to believe that actually her very existence is dependent on how she manages to relate in a masculine world and not as a person in her own right. So that is really the fundamental problem. And it is not something that an individual man or an individual woman brought about. It is how society has instructed the world over. And so it means that since these things are things that we as human society have put together, then it means we can do something about it. Because what has been found out is that these inequalities, they do not help our society. And therefore, effort must be made to dismantle these inequalities. Hence, the call by different groups of people for gender equality, for women to have easier access to resources, for women to have easier access to education facilities, and all of that. So basically, we are saying that these inequalities are not natural. And to that extent, something can be done to change them.
So is it the case that we really have not been doing anything about it? I mean, let's go to Parliament.
No, we have been doing we've been doing a lot. But I keep using the word systemic. Systemic in the sense that it permeates all facets of society. And for that reason, it's not a battle that is going to be won today. But the important thing is about commitment and action. We commit to the idea that it does well for us as people in this country, as women and men in this country, to work consistently on bridging the gaps between women and men in all sectors of the society. Now, if we commit to that, then we can continuously bridge the gender gap. So let's say we are in the year 2012. We should be able to say that in the year 2012, as many women as said they were interested in politics and wanted to get into parliament were enabled through a particular policy to get into that. But then if we just sit down, we say that we want to break the gender gap, but we don't put any specific measures in place, then you will realize that the issue of women's participation will remain the same as it was in 2008. And that's why I said earlier on that they are all social inequalities, and therefore we can do something about it.
Thank you very much for your time with us tonight, Doc. We are very grateful. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you.
All righty, so you can keep your messages coming in thick and fast. 1760 is a text line. Romeo Gansa says, in no way should a woman be given the chance to lead this country, though they have top positions, but not the presidency. Well, Romeo, you represent a view that our women are trying to break down. Omar Al-Gaddafi, when women are given vital roles, they lack objectives. Women are emotional, therefore they are slow in decision-making process, whilst men are mentally and physically strong. That's from Omar. Ridwan Selom Alidu, I think it's high time we had a female leader. But the question is, do women themselves believe in the leadership of a woman? There must be enough to prove this. If the answer is yes. Phil Addo, I think more opportunity must be given to them, for they have carried us in their wombs for 9 months, so they are capable of doing the work. Alrighty. Clement Mankata MacArthur, it is a curse for a woman to lead a man. Wow, this is an interesting view. It seems that the society still has these views. Albert Nept Addo says, for 2016, it is absolutely impossible for a woman to become president because it's going to be the second term bid for the most inspirational leadership of Nana Addo as president, and Mr. Anthony Efa as the NPP MP for Esukuma Odobin Brakwa constituency. Thank you, sir, for sending us your message from your constituency. I'm watching Kusikweku. Some of the women themselves don't like the idea of women leading them. I'll ask them if that's true. Onesimus Kwesi Ekpale, he says, sir, before a woman can become a president, they all need to be one and help each other. Secondly, women must be given more roles to play in this nation to help promote development. It is said that behind every successful man, there's a woman. Please, I believe women can do better. Uncle Atta, I salute you. May God be on your side always. Access denied, that's your name. Interesting. Women are a bit reckless in leadership roles. No offense, I am not trying to be anti-feminist. It is just my belief. Interesting belief. Access. Jacob B. Mahama, a lot of women have been given the opportunity to prove their worth, yet many have failed. I'm sure someone will tell you many men have failed as well. Doesn't mean that we shouldn't give men the opportunity. Jemima Achivo, I don't think Ghana is ready because we women are our own enemies, branding each other as prostitutes. Unless we are able to see beyond the need to be involved in cat fights rather than issue-based arguments, when given the chance, it will not augur well for national development. Jemima, you are really saying that you don't think that women can do it. You're a woman yourself. Frank Kwesi Yeboah Darling Boy says, I think the issue is not whether Ghana is ready for a female president in 2016, but whether there are capable women who can stand up to that challenge. I will say no, because even looking at our parliamentary democracy, which is also elective, well, I'll put your parliamentary democracy in inverted commas. It means something else. The female population has kept dwindling. That time will certainly come, but not in 2016. All right. Daniel Yim says, it is not going to happen. That is all that he says. Interesting. All right. Let's come back to the studio. Let's deal with the matter. Let me give you your introductory words at this time, Frances, and ask you. We've been talking about the role of women in Ghana's development dispensation. Anita here has been giving us her views. Just before you came in, Dr. Rose Mensah Kutin was on the line, giving us her views as well. And everybody seems to be harping on one thing. There are too many impediments in our way. I want to look at the statistics. 92, 16 women, 200-member parliament. 1896, 19 in 2000, 2004, 24, 2008, back to 19. What is it? In percentage terms, those are tiny figures. And yet, I don't think that the society really does not have so much regard for women. We do. We deal with women all the time. How come women are not in these positions?
Well, I'll say good evening to your viewers. And I apologize for being late, but as you realize, we're having the registration exercise. Right. And as a candidate, I must focus and deploy all my energies on the field to assure a convincing success for the MPP and another Kwaku Denta. But strictly, I'm under a bit of stress. Right. That's why my voice seems to be up. Now, it's been a long day.
Okay.
But strictly speaking, for you. There's some already, right. Thank you. But strictly speaking, women's emancipation has come a long way. You see, even in the most advanced democracies, if you look at the women's movement in America, which spearheaded all this feminist agenda, if you look at women in development, that is, we had women-only programs, women's-only support, women's-only whatever. There was attention on education, women's reproductive health. We've come a long way because now the focus is gender and development.
Okay.
The agenda now, like Auntie Rose was saying, is to bridge the gap of inequity.
Okay.
And it seems better because if you look, for instance, at the Bretton Woods institutions, most donor agencies have put in that caveat, which requires a certain percentage of gender representation in terms of equity before even assistance is given. Now, localizing it to Ghana, you'd realize that we are part of the UN mainstreaming agenda. And like Ms. Oyukaya said, without effective gender mainstreaming, that is, without effective involvement of the sexes, and when we say gender mainstreaming, we refer to balancing up the inequity between male and female. So definitely, it is another strategy to involve women in participation, in decision-making, and at all levels of societal endeavor and development. She said, she was with the UNDP. She said, without that, we will not achieve sustainable levels of development. Why? Because the poorest of the poor, by 1998, had been determined to be 70%, you know, women, the Constitution. And if poverty is debilitating to social progress, to economic progress, to our welfare as a nation, then we must address the poorest of the poor. And that comes in the women's agenda, or the gender agenda, bridging the gender gap. Having given that background, we've seen women attaining heights such as captains of industry. In Ghana, we've had the Velasis, who has chaired the Ghana Association of Industries before. We have a few enterprise, I don't know her actual name. If you look in, she's won so many awards. A very, you know, what do you call it? A very promising and a very astute and successful entrepreneur. We've had leaderships, Georgina Theodora Wood. We've had, you know, the Right Honorable Bamford Addo of Parliament. The Anija Gates have come and gone. You know, there have been so many women. We've had Elizabeth Ajay, you know, former of immigration. We've had our deputy IGPs, and I think the immediate past one who was made an ambassador. We've had so many women championing the national cause, not only the cause of women alone.
So why are we still discussing these matters then?
We are discussing it because of the inequities. You see, we are in a patriarchal dominated society. If you would agree with me, because there are cultural constraints where the society is male dominated. For instance, if you take the institution of chieftaincy, have you seen a traditional council like the region or national constituting women in their midst? But the women are the ones, the queen mothers, the abrewes, they nominate the kings or give assent.
The real kingmakers.
Yes. Then again, you come into our roles, our triple roles, like Caroline Moser said. We have a reproductive role, giving birth. That is our reproductive role. That is continuing the human chain. We have our productive role. That is the work we do to supplement whatever goes on in the home. Then our final role is a communal role. Women fetch water, women sweep the community. So if you look at our time burdens, for instance, a girl has to fetch water before going to school, whilst her male brother will just take his bath breakfast, and it's off to
Some
school.
of the boys in the village, you tell that they also go to the farm to go and
No,
weed
they
and
may
bring
go
some
to the
stuff
farm, but
before
generally,
they go. But you have a good
yeah,
time
we
there.
have the time beds.
Generally, I mean, even in the family, brothers
Yes.
and sisters, the girls seem to
If
do
you
more
and your
work when the
sister
boys are asleep
would
and
have
all
to be
that,
given an
or watching
opportunity.
football.
No, you will be given the opportunity first, for instance.
So those are issues that we have. Francis,
So-
I'll come back to you.
Okay.
But really, let me come back to Anita at this stage, because there's a question I was asking you and I had to take a commercial break, and I want to deal with that question. And to ask you, for example, that President Mills, before he was elected president, really made quite an issue out of this, saying that it's very important, mentioning figures and percentages. I'm not too sure whether 30% or so of all appointments will go to women or so, and I think at a later date saying that it had been difficult to meet it, admitting to it himself. Many say that the president perhaps should have done a little more. In cabinet, should have seen a little more women in there. In appointive roles, should have seen more women there to flag the message to all of us that really we also, from the stance of government, want to do something about it. Would you admit that the president really hasn't been done well for you women in that regard?
No, I will not accept that. The president have done the best that he can. But because of what goes on in politics, insults and other things,
Yes.
most women who are qualified to take positions, some of them refuse to take the positions because they have families that will come back to tell them that maybe we can't take the insults anymore.
Practically, has anyone refused President Mills's appointment because of
lot,
insults? Really?
A lot,
Oh,
a lot.
Tell us, give us information we
No,
don't
I
have.
can't mention names, but I'm just here to tell you that a lot of women were supposed to be appointed.
I see.
But they have to refuse it. Then the other side of the story is how many women who are intellectuals are ready to come into politics? They have the NGOs. They will come up to talk capacity building stories, this, that. But if you don't believe in the political ideology, how do you expect to be appointed when that political party wins? So what I'm saying is that we also need to come out boldly. If you think that you believe in social democrats,
Yes.
be bold and join the race. Because then don't expect that women will go to the grassroots campaign. After winning, you will come in with your PhDs just to tell the public or the president that, yes, I'm qualified, so just appoint me. If you don't believe in the ideology, I don't think it will work.
Okay.
So I will also take this opportunity to appeal to the women to come into politics. Like I said before, we have to seek ye first the political kingdom. If not, what we are doing as women will never, ever succeed.
That's where the power is, that's where the control
Yes.
is. You're talking about insults, and you used the word earlier on that some will even call you a prostitute if you go asking a man for funding.
Yeah.
When a man can just go to another man or woman and ask for that funding.
Because it's not
and
easy.
it's normal.
Yes, if you go to women who are contesting now, it's not easy for them to raise funds.
Okay.
It's not easy
Because of
at
the
all.
name calling.
Yes.
I have this quote here in front of me from Mrs. Akufo-Addo. It says, politics of insult is the disincentive for women. It seems to be what you're saying. But let me ask you, Frances, is she correct in that observation?
Well, to an extent, she's correct. But the problems are they are multifarious and hydra-headed. I've told you that we have the cultural constraints. Then from there, you also have certain biological constraints which are naturally imposed.
Okay.
And then from there, you'd realize that when you come in terms of access to public goods and services, for instance, I did a research in Dodowa,
Okay.
for my master's. That's the gender disaggregation of poverty alleviation initiatives. And you'd realize that for the beehive makers or entrepreneurs, a man will have 200 beehives. And the women who were more in the program would have less beehives because of the capacity to actually have funding and so on. You'd realize that we use women rather on the periphery. And if you look at the total, output of the informal sector to national development worldwide, not Ghana alone, women's labor contribution it's in billions. It can trillions and zillions. It can't be quantified.
Absolutely.
But you see, with the question of insult, politics is a tough terrain. And it's a question of passion, capacity, competence. You have to mix from the grassroots level right up to the highest echelons of the intellectual and professional community. Because admittedly, Parliament, let's take the decision-making body, the August House of the Legislature, for instance. Look at the dwindling numbers of women, but the women in there. Look at the Fremont Sale, Paris. You look at the lady who was taken to Women and Children Affairs. Honorable Azuma.
Yes.
You look at Kuya Danswa. You look at excuse me, Ayokoboche. Honorable Shela Ayokoboche. Honorable Sisi. These are women who have worked, some at the international level, some with UNICEF, you know, what do you call it? Some have worked with World Vision and so many other corporate organizations and NGOs.
Right.
And they found themselves there because they can contribute to national development. We have women too in Makola who are contributing their own to the economy of the country. But the basic problem is harnessing our efforts. For instance, we talked of the data collection. So that wherever you are, if it's doctors, lawyers, market women, traders, we have the list. So that when opportunities crop up, we just fix people. Look at UN appointments, for instance. You see the number of Indian, South African, East African women in those positions. How many Ghanaian women will you have? Because you see, we need to systemize the agenda. We need a clear focus, other than workshops, which I find more to be maybe some touting, some lip service.
So what should we do?
One, let's start from the district assembly level. Let's start from our secondary institutions and tertiary institutions. Wherever we find ourselves,
same point you were making earlier.
Wherever we find ourselves as women, we have to ensure that we push and move to the fore.
Okay.
But you have instances where you may have a female very high up in an institution. I have an example of a friend, I can't mention names.
Right.
And you know, she came to Legon to study law, and her boss, who was a woman, kept on putting obstacles in her way. If she didn't have the strength of character, she may not have finished the course. And you look at our time burdens. For instance, if you look through our institutions, do we have enough creches? Do we have enough, I don't know, preschool institutions to cater for our little kids? 6 months, 3 months, up to 1 year, whilst we go to work. I've seen a beautiful example at Data Bank. I was impressed. I think it's catching on. So my point is that there are solutions to our problems, and we have to plod on steadily. I trained in Uganda, and that was, I think, 2003. And what I realized was that the women there are very proactive because there's affirmative action.
Okay.
In fact, what I wanted to, all that I've been skirting around is that we need that legal backing. Affirmative action should be passed into law. And it is binding on all institutions. If affirmative action says district assemblies should make appointees, you know, 30% female, it is law.
Anita was saying before you came, for example, that in the creation of the new constituencies, that we perhaps could say that in these and that and that and those constituencies, perhaps it's a battle for women. They may come from whichever party, but let them battle among themselves and don't add men to it.
The problem I have with that is, if we have affirmative action, in Uganda, for instance, we have the owns women's seats. You know, that means women will compete in a particular constituency or region. Whoever comes out is a female.
Okay.
And then they were free to contest in the competitive areas.
Okay.
But over here, it is extremely competitive.
All right.
But that was affirmative action. It was in their law.
Okay.
If you go to South Africa, Rwanda, there are beautiful examples.
I'm trying to get a practical question. That's why I threw in what she said. I'm trying to get a practical step. So what should we legislate?
And I'm saying that the practical step
as
is
a lawyer, when you say it's under law,
Yeah.
I'm asking myself, so what law are we talking about that I can point to? What should we say? For example, she has given me an example. These constituencies must belong to women. You're saying it will be difficult in Ghana.
No, I'm saying that until you have it in law.
Yes. Yes, but she said we should put it in law.
Before you put it in law, you have to have the debate and the discussion.
All right.
Because not everywhere will be amenable.
Okay.
Because it's competition. Politics is competitive.
Sure.
So affirmative action, actually, we've debated it, and I believe it's on the table of our legislators and it's the urge and push that the law be passed.
Okay.
All the conditions are there. I don't need to spell them out.
Okay.
IE has done a good job. Net rights, Mrs. Apalu and co.
I was talking about commitment for at least 30% representation of men in executive structures and all of
and
that.
And that's it. You see, when the law is put in, for instance, when I was at the AMA, we had the gender desk, but are they operating?
Okay.
And there was a thing about putting in 30%. But once it's not in law, you find the appointees even being all men in some stages. And I think the women role modeling is a problem because one, females in secondary institutions, even in primary and tertiary institutions, we need to take their leaderships, we need to take a Speaker of Parliament, we need to take other stakeholders in the agenda who have reached the very top of their professions and vocations. We need to take our Makula women who have done so well. We need to take our farmers who are women. We need to take our fisher folks who are women.
So that people can really
see. So that we showcase them, take them institution by institution, for them to see what other women have done. And then it will motivate and...
Anita, don't you think that sometimes we concentrate a bit too much on politics? Because, for example, tonight's topic is the role of women in Ghana's democratic dispensation. In the democratic dispensation exercise, is it merely who is in parliament or how many women are there, or is much wider than that? And of course, given the background that Francis has given us, isn't there so much participation of women all over the place, here and there, the positions, judges, and all that? Of course, the Chief Justice, she didn't pop up from out of the woodwork. I mean, as far back as whenever she was writing judgments as Regina Luttrot, and I'm sure many people will pick those judgments and think that it's a different person. And not just Annie Jaggi was mentioned and all of that. In fact, in the medical fields, in the democratic dispensation is wider than Parliament, isn't it?
Yes.
And what in that whole sphere of things, wouldn't you say that women are really up there, or you still think that there are problems? If it's difficult getting funding to go and stand for election, couldn't you be a part of the democratic dispensation, doing some other thing, business, whatever, education, and all of that, and adding those things happening? Is the picture that bad?
Yes, it is.
Really?
Because I think when we started, I said that gender equality does not mean that we want to be the same with you. But what we are saying that equal rights, opportunities, okay, and responsibilities should be given to men, women, boys, and girls. This is what we are asking for. Right. It's not only in terms of politics.
Okay.
Last February, we were in New York. That's UN Women. We met. And the topic was empowering rural women to reduce poverty and also to eradicate hunger.
Okay.
Because we thought that if you watch carefully, women are the majority in terms of farming.
Sure.
But they don't own lands. They don't have technology. They don't have the resources in terms of health, in terms of capacity. But we sat and discussed, why can't they give the same access that they are giving to men, to women?
Let me tell you something. I actually consulted for a Canadian company in Ghana, in mining, who actually had a long queue to pay monies to its workers. And the women in the community actually said it was a taboo for them to think they could pay them the same amount as their husbands.
No, it's tradition.
Objected to being paid the same amount of money.
No, it's tradition. It's not their fault. It's tradition.
How do we break out of that? In that situation,
through education.
So
recently, MOA came out that before affirmative bill will be passed or action will be passed into bill, why can't we go to the regions? They went to the regions. And it will surprise you to know that some men were saying that they are not going to allow their women to come to the forefront.
And some women are saying that, please don't force us to stand toe to toe.
It's not their fault. Why can't we are partners, so just help us to succeed. Because if we want this country to succeed, then we need to empower the women. Helping women will help you to have peace of mind in your homes. Helping a woman will allow our children to have good education. So why can't you come in to help us? We are not going to compete with you. I always say that if women can come down to know that this is our shortcomings, why can't we go to the men for them to help us? At times we do have programs. you see only few men. So who is going to propagate for our message? We need more men to be at such programs so that they listen to us. Because after the program, you can send a document to them. They may not have the opportunity to go through. But if you call them and they listen to you, they will have sympathy. They will know that, yes, this is the time that we need to assist women. So what I'm saying is that we need your help. We are weak. We are the weaker cells. We are not going to blame you. But what can you do to assist us? Because if we are not very careful and we think that we want to compete with you, at the end of the day, we are not going to progress. We have a lot of NGOs in this country. Today, this group will call for a capacity building. Another time, the same thing. It seems we are not progressing. So why can't we channel through another source and see how best we can resolve this problem?
In 30 seconds, what other source, apart from the conferences and meetings and capacity building workshops in Akosombo or in all these NGOs, what should we do differently?
They should just forget about their NGOs. Let's come together as women and say that, yes, this is our weaknesses. Let's come together. Let's tell the men we are partners. We are not going to struggle with them for any positions. We want them to assist us. What we need is equality. Equality means business. We are partners. So they should assist us. Instead of always having capacity buildings there, in and out. And it's the same thing, and we are not making any progress. I'm even fed up because last week, about 3 NGOs had the same program on the same day. How do you expect me to attend all these programs? Interesting.
Frances, somehow our time is almost up. But before we go, I really need your comment on this this bit about, and some people summarize it and say women are their own worst enemies. I've seen some messages here. Unfortunately, I can't read it. We don't have the time.
Men do fight.
There's one that absolutely.
No.
Absolutely.
Men do fight.
That's not
By the end of the day,
I'm telling you what we've all heard, and
together.
I believe you've heard it as well. How do we address? Even the example you gave about somebody's boss, it was another woman, making it almost impossible for her to pursue her course and the strength of character and all of that. Really, is there something in that area that we also should be looking at?
Well, we are talking of mentoring, role modeling. And as I said, women are disadvantaged strictly because of their time burdens and no other reason. The reproductive role, the productive role, and then the communal role. So these are the areas that and I think the civil society organizations have done a good job over and across time. Because, for instance, if you look at net rights, if you look at Abantu, if you look at IEA, it has helped to put us together to focus on the fact that as women, we need to come together, we need to rise up. But after all, in society, everything is a challenge. Because Christopher Columbus did not, he moved out with a certain spirit of adventurism and discovered the Newfoundlands, America. And here they are today. So I'm saying that as women, you know, the green light is on. And me as a go-getter is go, go, go. Let us access through our own efforts. But above all governments, now those coming, all efforts being made, we should rather put more energy into it, revitalize our efforts to get the affirmative action bill passed. And I believe that it will make it easier for us to move on. But in politics, in business, whatever it is competition. And in Ghana, I don't think there's discrimination per se. From the Beijing platform, from the CEDAW, and all other international treaties and agreements that Ghana, as part of the UN gender agenda, has been party to. I believe Ghana, there is a measure of parity. Nobody really goes out all the way to essentially discriminate. Where you didn't have women even being recognized. Today, in parts of northern Ghana and so on, in my own Krobo lands, women are coming up in national affairs. But within the intellectual and professional community, in fact, there are thousands of women. But let's build a database. Let's look at the disaggregation of roles and professions. Let's motivate the younger ones. And as women, we plod on slowly. But I believe gradually, the men are beginning to respect us because, I mean, we are almost there. It's just left for a vice president, a president, you know, maybe a Bank of Ghana, boss being a woman. We've had a deputy before. So when we begin to look at the top echelons of corporate institutions, other societal sectors, and so on and so forth, I believe that women who constitute over 51% of the population should really make their voices heard through the decision-making process. And I appeal to Parliament to reinvigorate the gender caucus, because it is through that legislation can be made more effective. And our male partners who have been helping should also do more to ensure that the affirmative action, action bill, of course, is passed through legislation.
We really have to be getting ready to go, but a few messages here. Romeo Gansa says a woman can never become president in Ghana. Muslims will vote her out as women do not rule them. I have to find that out from Yaya, my director, who knows best. Also, most women lack competence and courage. The presidency is not about trying one's luck. We need performance. Maybe. Anita is saying that there are most Islamic countries where they actually have leaders. So that probably is not a correct view. Samuel Sarkodie says, no, recent developments in Ghanaian politics have shown that our mothers are easily manipulated than our fathers. All right, I don't know what that means. This one without a name says, when it comes to politics, competency comes before gender. Tobacco says, Ni, where have you been? You are welcome. We missed you. Thank you. I missed you too. It's good to be back. Robert Gansa again, more women should be given the platform to enter into politics, but not sure if any woman can stand the pressure that Ghanaians will give. Well, we'll live to see. God bless Ghana and bless all of us. Anita says we can. Dixon Desiree, I don't think Ghana is actually ready for a female president. It is not just possible. And this will come to possibility when the women themselves learn to appreciate each other or appreciate themselves. The women are enemies of their own progress. No. If not, they are the majority in Ghana. And how come they have not achieved what they ought to achieve? Okay, so this is a message I think I saw that I was making reference to. It was a quick glance. And it says, I'm one person who admires, loves, and has a lot of respect for women who are in politics, but they are our mothers and can take better care of us as men. But it's unfortunate. They are very arrogant and always very insulting. And for that fact, I will not vote for any of them who are arrogant and insulting. Whoa, those are those are not my words. But I don't know about women being arrogant.
Before you go, can I quickly say hello to all the electorate in Adenta? And it's been very hectic, and I would like to thank the entire electorate because the numbers have been massive. And I believe we're heading towards the World Bank by the end of the registration.
I'll give you a minute to balance the scales. What will be your final words?
Women have multi-brains and men should give us the opportunity. And we are going to excel. I also wish to say bravo to NDC and thank you to the agents for sacrificing their life for the dear NDC party. And I know that at the end of the day, 2012 elections, we are going to take the note. Thank you very much.
It's a special year. And of course, as you heard, we're told that women need some form of adventurism. And Don Diego de Alzambuja and all of them. Do you know why America is called America? Americo Vespucci decided to sit in some kind of a vessel on water and said that he had discovered lands. The question that we ask is, weren't there people on those lands that he said he had discovered? So didn't they then discover their own lands before somebody came to see them? But then it's a question of life. If you sit back, somebody would discover you. So perhaps our women must also step up the game a bit, break free. Otherwise the men would discover them. No.